Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. A COVID one. It's been a while since I've talked about COVID. What I'm interested in is why, for the last 2 years, it's been the most important subject of the government and the media, and now they seem to have lost interest in it. They don't put the figures up since the Ukrainian war. It's that now the media is interested in. But a few weeks ago, the ONS estimated there were 5 million cases of COVID-19 in the UK, in England. And that's the highest. That's higher than any of the lockdowns that we've had. And on Friday, what was it, the 19th, 18th? Good Friday, there was 221 deaths, which is the same amount of deaths there were back when they last were reporting the figures, which was over 7 weeks ago when the Ukraine war started. So the deaths haven't gone down. It's not, it's still continuing. Imagine 200 people a day. Surely that must be the members of one whole small street dying every day. Obviously not every day, because the weekend the figures go down because they don't collate them, and then obviously on the Mondays they shoot up. But roughly, I think it's between 700 to 1,000 people are dying every single week. That's 3,000 to 5,000 people dying every month. If these figures were last year or the year before, we'd be in lockdown now. It's not like, you could say that the vaccines are working, but not for those 221 people, they're not. I suppose people would say, I don't know the demographics of those 221, but I expect they're people that the vaccine doesn't work for, either because they're too sick or they're immune problems. My worry is that what's actually happening here is what would have happened back in 2020. And this is the problem with the vaccine that doesn't last, like say the polio or TB or whatever, when they last for 10 years or whatever, because it has such a short span. What it means is probably the people that were always going to die of COVID-19 are the ones dying, because as the vaccine wanes away, their protection, if they were protected, because obviously people were given vaccines, they were never tested to see whether they had, the vaccine had replicated within them, which is why at the beginning they did 2. And yeah, those people now are the ones, because unless you hide away and protect yourself, if you start, following the government and the media's, just get back to normal, throw everything away, and then obviously those people that were going to die in 2020 are now slowly dying as the vaccine wanes away, as people, with 5 million people with COVID, it's probably very difficult not to go outside and catch it, depending on where those 5 million people are. I suspect most of that's London based, because it has the highest dense population, or one of them. I expect up north as well, because they have a dense population as well, which makes it spread more, of course. But what interests me is why now these lives aren't of concern to politicians. No more briefings, when these figures are worse than the figures. The deaths aren't as worse as in lockdown, but definitely the infection is, and that's what they were basing most of their stuff on. And the reason the infection went up is because everyone was told, go out and continue as if this doesn't exist, and basically risk your own life. And if you're lucky, you won't be one of those 221. But if you're unlucky, then you're dead now. I don't know what I know there's a lot of people that don't want the restrictions, this, that and the other. But I guess the problem is if we went through all these things in 2020, 21 of staying locked down, for those people that we try to protect by all staying in and by vaccinating, are now the ones that are going to die in 2022 and onwards. And all we did was just slow it down. But it's very worrying when you think about the fact that, well, why don't the government care? Why doesn't the media care? See, this is the problem. Sometimes we mix the media and the government up. The media always, they go with the story. The big story obviously is Ukraine. They get bored of that soon as well. If it's going to last for years, I'm sure it's not going to be on every day. Then it'll be Partygate, and then maybe COVID will come back in again if there's a spike in the amount of deaths, or something happens, or there's a new, the media, they're reporting on China with their what most people say overprotective stance on this new outbreak, where only one person died, but yet the news was reporting on it for a few days, and yet 221 people died. They didn't report on that. Those 221 weren't important enough to report on. It's just sometimes the media is the guiding force, the more powerful than the government, because they're the ones that are swaying your mind and your attention and your fear and this, that and the other. But yeah, it is interesting how now, why isn't it a matter of concern? Why isn't it coming up on the bottom of breaking news how many people are dying every day like it was for 2 years, when they're the same figures? So the same situation is there, but it's now unreported. And of course, the reason is that it's for economic reasoning, because the media, obviously, I guess they want to make money, and the government, I don't know if they instruct them or because the way they stop releasing figures in a certain way, maybe that is why, or just because of the war started in Ukraine, that the media wants to talk about something else now, because obviously it is benefit for economic reasons for them not to keep putting these figures up, not to keep the fear that they did for the last 2 years. But of course that and then of course everyone just then disperses and then starts catching it and dying of it. I don't know, it's just very confusing when you want to trust government, you want to trust media, and it doesn't make sense when they suddenly stop reporting on something that hasn't gone away and is still a pandemic and is still claiming the same amount of lives, that the same amount of numbers, and if not in some cases more with infection wise, than they were reporting on before. If it was so important for them to report on it and for politicians to stand up and talk about, you must do this, you mustn't do that, why now isn't that the case? Take care, take it easy, God bless and peace.